this one is meant for this EMB and society, right? I think I understand that most of the students or members are actually from engineering faculty. So today, I think this technical article workshops actually is something that I extracted from my 2-day workshops that I have conducted for engineers in the industry, because some industry, they also have R&D departments where they also want to publish some of their R&D outcomes. So sometimes, from time to time, I also conduct such training to them. So what I try to do today is try to extract some of the more key and short highlights to share with you, and so that hopefully it will help you in your future writing for technical articles. Okay. So again, I'd like to thank you, MC Xiao Yi, for inviting me to be the speaker for today. So I'm happy to actually share my thinking and also understanding on this topic. Hopefully it will help you after you attend this short, I would say lecture rather than a workshop. So basically I plan it to be about 1.5 hours, and then followed by a Q&A session. But I think also when I present the slides, if you have any questions or any clarification required, you can actually just stop me, and then I can explain your question on the spot. Okay, if I can, if not, then I will leave it until the end of the session. So okay, let me share my screen. Can you hear me? If at that point of time you find that you cannot hear me or my slide seems to be jammed, then please let me know. So I'm showing my slides. Can see my slide, everyone?
Yes, can see.
Okay. So so this one actually the title is called technical article writing. I won't say it's workshop now. It's just maybe lectures. So as the name implies, it's about sharing a view on the highlights on the do's and don'ts on when you are writing technical articles. Okay. So maybe before I go into the main core contents, maybe I just like to share some little bit of background on publication. So basically, when we talk about publications, we are writing for our technical contents, so that people know what are we doing, and also what are the useful or impactful outcomes coming out from our work. So we can publish it through different modes. Basically, the most common one is through journals. Okay, of course, sometimes we also do presentation in conferences. And for students like in the undergraduates or even postgraduate levels, you also have to write your outcomes of your works in the form of thesis. Okay, so basically, what I'm sharing today actually can be applied for all. So basically, when we say we are writing a technical writing, sometimes it's also called scientific writing. We actually are referring to writing that we are writing for a conference. Okay, we call it generally as a conference papers, or we can also call it as a communications on letters or technical notes. Okay, depending on the type of journal you are submitting to. And then the most common one is the full-length research paper. Okay, and sometimes they also journal also accept very lengthy review papers, but that one is only upon invitation. Okay, that means journal only invite certain scientists or engineers they think that they are very well known in a certain area. They will invite them to write a review paper on certain topics. Okay, so it's by invitation. So as an author, we are not able to say, okay, I want to submit a review paper. Normally, it is not accepted. Okay, unless they invite you. So here I just want to quickly share with you what the different type of publication I mentioned just now. So when we say a conference paper, basically these are short papers. Okay, if we are using the say Microsoft Word to type out the manuscript, basically you are referring to about 3 to 4 page length of writing only, which is about maybe between 1,000 to 1,500 words. Okay. So basically, these are the papers that you submit to a conference or a symposium or workshops to present your research work or your project works, where you think there are some useful information that you want the world to know. Okay. So basically, when you are writing a conference paper, you are only writing to include very briefly and certain length of your or depth of your content. Okay, but the structure of writing actually is very similar to that of a typical journals. So that means you still have to think about your title, your author list, the abstract, the introduction, your experimental method, and of course the key thing is your results, and then the discussion, and then the conclusion you can make. Okay, plus other information like acknowledgement and reference. Okay. The main purpose is actually to share the original findings, okay, which is when we say original, means these are the work or the result that is done by you originally. Okay, it's not copied from somewhere. Okay, and it's not been reported before, so it's something new and also original. And because it's a conference, they can accept unfinished work in the sense that you are still doing your work. You haven't finalized the final conclusion, but along your way, you find out, hey, there's something very useful that you think that the world should know first. So then you can actually present your data or your results in conferences. Okay. Of course, the work is not considered complete yet. If your work already completed, then normally we write to journals, okay, rather than send to a conference. Okay. So in journals, there are different types of journals. Like certain journals, they are the name itself is already telling you is a letter-based journals. Okay, where these are the journal where the length of their writing is almost it's quite short also. Okay, it's quite similar to that of a conference paper, normally between 2 to 5 full pages of your writings, containing between 1,000 to 5,000 words. Okay, then the structure is similar also as a conference paper, and then the whole idea of writing to this type of journals. Okay, for example, this I give us some example here, like electronics letter. This is from IET. Then for IEEE, there are also quite a lot of journals which is under this category, like electronic device letters, electrochemical and solid state letters. And then some other journals from the physics, like the applied physics letter. Okay, so basically, this type of journal, they accept very novel original findings. Okay, novel means it's something really new, something that people haven't not seen it before. Okay, and then but then your paper, because it's short paper, your writing actually is quite narrow focus. You only have one single theme. Okay, and you know that the world need to know your result very fast, urgently. That's why all these type of journals, they only accept result which is urgent to be known to the world. That's why if we later on, if we find out when you have experience in this, these are the journals where the impact factor is very high, because they only accept impactful papers. Okay, because the result has to be of some impact, otherwise they will not consider at all. Okay. Then of course the main type will be the full-length paper or the review paper, which will be submitted to a full-length journals. Okay, so and nowadays there are so many journals, okay, that we can consider. Okay, in the past, most of the journals are actually under the purview of the learned society, like IEEE, IET, or the American Institute of Physics. So under this society, they only have a limited number of journals. Okay, that's why last time it's quite difficult to publish paper because the choice is not many and they are very strict. But nowadays, because of the publisher are into the picture, so they under the publishers like Elsevier, they have a lot of long list of journals options. So nowadays, we as a researcher or anyone who are interested to publish, we find that there are a lot of choices to choose from. Okay, so basically, when we refer to the full journal papers, these are the papers which can be very long. Okay, it can be very short also. Can be say up as short as 4 pages. Or even 3 pages. Okay, depends on the journals, and it can be up to 20 pages or beyond. Okay, but of course, if you are writing a very long journal papers, you have to be aware, because certain publications, they will impose the page charges. For example, IEEE, if your pages is more than 8 pages, then they will charge you. One extra page is cost you $200 US. Okay, so if you are submitting a paper where it's 20 page log in length, then you minus away 8, you have to pay for the extra 12 pages. So that means you have to pay $2,400 to the publisher in order to publish your paper. Okay, so normally our strategy is not to go for so long paper, try to keep it within the limits as published by the journals. Okay, for free publications. Okay, otherwise they charge you for the publication. So for full journals, again, they also want whatever submission, you must have novel and original results. Okay? But the difference compared to the conference paper or the letter-based paper is that you need to have more explanation, okay, and provide more evidence to prove your results. Okay, and this result that you're going to show, okay, it can be urgent, but it can be not urgent also. That's why they allow you to write lengthy, give you time to find your evidence and explanations. So normally, this is the 3 main category of publication if you want to submit for journal publications. Okay, the conference, the letters, and the full-length papers. Conferences nowadays, in the past, they only compile all your submission into their own private proceedings. Okay, then only those those participants in the conference have a copy of that. So anyone outside the conference, they have no access to your paper. So that means it's quite an exclusive and close publication. Okay, but nowadays, especially the IEEE, they actually publish all their proceedings of the conferences online in their website. So basically, it's open to everyone. So that's a major category of publications. Then the second section I want to share with you is in general publication frameworks. So before you want to write about your paper for submission, you have to think about it first. Okay. So there are some strategy you have to get yourself prepared before you start to write your publications. So the first one is that you must identify and know your topic of study to write about. Okay. So of course, if you are doing a financial project, you may already know the topics. Like you are doing something that maybe you propose or your supervisor are proposing. So you already know the topics. But while you are doing the projects, I think most of the preparation to write a publication or even your thesis is you are getting ready for that. Okay? For example, you have to know why are you doing these topics? What is the significance? Okay. Or the usefulness of doing these studies. Okay, why are you doing this piece of work? Okay, what is the impact? And any outcome you achieve, any result you achieve, what does it mean? What does it mean to yourself? What does it mean to the community? What does it mean to the world? So you have to think about that when you do any particular projects, especially when you want to write about it. Then what are the message or information you have to convey or to convince the reader that they should understand and believe your finding, okay? Or make use of your finding. Okay? So this is something you have to have in mind before you start to write your paper or your thesis. Then once you have satisfied, hey, yeah, you have something, you are conducting something that you think is worth publishing. Then you have to identify the journal that you want to submit for publication. Okay, but normally every journals that is available that is set for publication, they have their own respective aim and scope of coverage. Okay, so they don't cover no single journal will cover anything, right? So every journal will have a specific list of topics they want to cover and publish within their purview. Okay, so you must find the right journals to submit to. Because if you are submitting to a journal where they find your result or whatever you try to present is not relevant to them, so straight away they reject you at the editorial level. Okay. So I'll give you some examples. For example, like in the past, I also did some work on some ceramic-based capacitors. So it's a ceramic-based, so I actually choose a journal like this journal of alloys and compound because they are covered with similar topics. Okay. So if you are doing semiconductors manufacturing, then of course you look for journals that is dealing with that area. IEEE have one, so I actually also published in one there. Then if we are working in some pharmaceutical area about medicine testing, then you also have your own list of journals that is relevant to it. Okay, for example, is a journal of pharmaceutical analysis, then or biochemical pharmacology. So there are actually nowadays too many, actually in fact too many journals to choose from. So I think your task is to find among this 100 of relevant journals, which one actually is the best for you to choose. Okay, so normally the way we choose the journal to go for is you have to first of all ask yourself the quality of data. If your quality of data is very, very good, okay, very impactful, then you should aim for those journals where they are in the Q1 ranking in the WOS, the Web of Science, okay? Because you should go for the top journals. So normally these Q1 journals in the WOS, they have a very high impact factor. And they also, they're under those reputable in the society. Then you should target for all this type of journals. But of course, if your journal, your quality of data is not impactful, but then it's still useful, then you may actually choose for those Q2 ranking journals or even Q3. Okay. But if you think your data are all no impact at all, and actually it's for your own self-interest, then of course the chances of you to be accepted by journals may be very low, especially for the good journals. Then of course you don't have to waste of time to write about it. You'll be rejected anyway. Right? But if you say, oh, I want to try something, but it has to be aware. Nowadays there are quite a lot of those journals which are actually of no qualities. We call them those. There's a name called predatory publications. Okay, these are the publications where they will accept any submission. Okay, even if the data are no good or even not true, those data without proven evidence, they may accept it. The key is they will charge you for publication. Okay, so any page you want to submit, they charge you a price. So they don't care about the quality of what they just accept what whoever submit. Okay, so when you choose journals, make sure you choose the journals not in the predatory list. Okay, and normally my guidelines for choosing a journal is first choice to choose the journals from the learned society, like IEEE, AIP, things like that. And then the IET, then or you choose from those well-known publisher like Elsevier. Okay, but even among Elsevier, there are some Q1, Q2, Q3 ranking. So you also have to know what are the relevant journals inside there. Okay, I think UTAR itself, we do provide some guidance in terms of the quarter ranking of the journals. Okay, from the IPSR website. So if you're interested, you can actually find out from there what are the journals considered good journals, what are not considered good journals. Okay. So if we have good data, please don't waste them. Okay, don't publish in lower rank journals. Publish for higher rank journals. Okay. So this is my advice for any students or anyone with good quality data. So then once you know which journal you want to submit to, you can actually, by that time you should really know where to find them, right? So nowadays everything is online. You can find the information about the journals on the website. So from there, you can actually identify their submission process. Okay, because every journals they have their own respective online submission system to accept your submissions, and it's very easy nowadays. You just click and upload, so it's very fast on. Okay? And from the website, they will always give you those important guidelines for author. Okay, if you are writing something, you are considered as an author. Okay, so they give you author guides. Okay, so maybe I give it fix. Okay, my example is this one is author guides given by IEEE. Say for all IEEE journals, they will follow the same guide. Okay, so they have their own specific requirements when you're writing for IEEE. Okay, for example, so in this guide, they tell you what are the structure of the journal they expect you to write. Okay, then what type of language you have to use, what type of figures, what type of tables. Okay, for example, in this guide, they also spell out in a paper you must have the structure, you must have the title, you must have the footnote, you must have the abstract, index, things like that. So you have to follow what they want. Okay? If you're writing for IEEE, you had to follow IEEE formats. If you are writing for other journals from other publishers, they have their own respective requirements. So then you have to download an author guide and follow accordingly. Okay, you don't use what IEEE wants and submit to another like IET. IET and IEEE, they have different requirements. Okay, so don't mix. So they are quite detailed for IEEE. So they spell out everything. Your table, what your table must be in what form, then your figures must be in what form, the figure caption must be in what form. So if you are the new authors, then you have to really spend some time to read about it, so that when you write your manuscripts, you follow the format that you want. Okay. At the same time, you from the website, you also have to gather some information. Some I think is quite critical, although it may appear to be like that. For example, like the policy on the copyright. Okay. But nowadays, I think for copyrights, we have to give up our rights. Right? When you submit your journals submission to them, when they publish your paper, basically you have no right. You surrender your right to them, so they can make use of your paper, but you cannot make use of the paper. When you want to use your own paper, you have to get permission from them. Okay, so this is why it is not normal. Now, of course, there are also some policy on ethics or conflict of interest you have to find out also. Because certain journals, for example, they don't accept submission from certain countries, because they think this country have a manufacturing right records on this. So if you are from this country, then no point submitting to this journal because they will reject you straight away. And then also to find out from their initial and review submission process, whether they take a long time to review. Sometimes certain journal they are quite slow. From the time you submit to them online until you get your result, whether it's accepted or rejected, it may take 9 months to 1 year. It depends on journals. So it may happen. Okay, in the past it's always more than 1 year, but now because of the online system, most of the journals they can actually do it within 6 months. Okay, and the letter-based journals, where they do it as shorter papers, they actually can give you answer within 2 or 3 months. Okay, the more impactful one, sometimes like IEEE electronic letters, they can give you answer within a month. So they are quite fast. Okay, for those letter-based journals. But certain journals they can be quite slower. So if you need the result and publication fast, then you have to be selective. You have to choose the journal where the record is efficient and fast. Okay. So for example, okay, these are the example of the journals I mentioned earlier. I can show you. So you can go to the website and find out. For example, the journal of alloy compound, they always have this. Not only this journal, every journals they always have this list of information, the guide for author, and how do you submit a paper, then another portal for you to submit a paper, things like that, track your paper. So everything is online, so it's very, very fast and efficient, and then you know what happened. Okay, unlike in the previous years, before the online system are popular, you had to submit the submission physically. Yeah? So normally you had to post them to the editorial office, and if you know the reliability of the postal service, then you know that sometimes your submission may be lost in transit. So you may not hear from the editor for 3 months, 6 months, then you know, they never receive your submission. So that by the time you get your paper published, it could be already 2 years down the road. Okay, that's why the scientific community say this type of practice is not acceptable. That's why nowadays they all go for online submission, because online submission is fast, easy, and you can track what happened to your submission. Okay? So this is for just then as another example for other publications. So after you know your journal, you identify, you know how to submit. Okay, you know their author guides. Then you have to follow whatever they require. Okay? IEEE, they are very kind, so they actually give you a template in soft copy. So you just fill in. You could download their templates. You just cut and paste into their templates. Then you are into their formats. Okay, so they're quite helpful. So every journal they may have the author guide and the template, so you should actually find it out. Okay. So this is for everybody. Then after that, once you know, okay, I already know this journal, I can submit, I already know how to submit. Then your job is to write your manuscript based on the work that you conduct. So of course, when you do your projects or even your assignments, right? I'm sure when you first started doing it, you already have done some level of literature review, okay? But when you write a manuscript or paper for submissions, basically you have to repeat the same process again, because you must make sure you have the right references that can help you to explain your results or help you to start your writing, explaining why you're doing this piece of work. So again, you have to go back and conduct your literature review. Okay. Then you have to perform your research work or your project work or your assignments. And then, of course, basically is to collect your data, your results. Then you start to write them, okay, into the journal contents, okay, following the format and structure required by the journals. Okay. So this include the abstract, introduction, result analysis, discussion, and conclusion. And these are the main content we will discuss later on. I'll give you some highlights on the do's and the don'ts. Because normally, before you start writing, you should have this in mind so that you can have a more efficient writing. Rather than after you've written everything, then you say, oh, I don't have this one, I don't have that one. So you have to rewrite everything again. Okay. So after you have written a copy where you're satisfied with the contents and also the language, okay, then of course then you can ready to submit. Okay. So okay, next is just to share a little bit about the literary review. Okay, because I'm not sure whether you are familiar with this. Okay, because if you are year one student, you may not be aware of all these practices. But if you are already in the final year, you're doing a project, I think this one should not be new to you. So basically, technical or scientific writing can start by doing a literary review. Okay, again, literary review is actually quite important. Okay, because it provides you the basic and background information about the topic or the work you are doing. Okay, because we don't do something out of nothing, right? So there must be some traceability of your work. Some history information. So you important to do the literary review from there onwards. Okay. So the basic rule of doing a good writing actually is to do a lot of reading. Okay, because you can only write what you know, what you have read about, what you have digested, and what you have thought through long and truthful inside your mind. Then only you can write it out. Okay? And the basic background of doing that is you have to read a lot. So you have all the information and data inside your mind so that you can digest it and structure it into words so that you can write about it. So reading is, I always emphasize to all my students, you must read, okay, about the topic you are doing, okay. Then of course to find nowadays because the proliferation of a lot of internet information, so you have to know how to find the right information to read. You don't read something which is not useful and wasting of your time, okay? Because there are so many data and your time is limited. So first of all, you must know where to find them. Okay, what are the database people are nowadays are commonly using? Okay, so example database is like Google Scholars. I think I'll always recommend to use Google Scholars to find as a first level of finding information about the research topics you are doing. Because in the Google Scholar system platforms, they actually can list out all the relevant papers in a particular topic or through the keyword you key in. So it's very useful. Next will be some other search engine like in the Yahoo, okay, or even Science Direct. These are the general platform. Or you can go to the specific website from the publisher or the learned society. IEEE, okay, IEEE have a system called the IEEE Explore, okay. So if we are a member of the society or through UTAL, through the IEEE Explore, you can find any topics that is covered by all the IEEE journals. Okay? Same thing for IAP or Biomed Central. These are the example of the websites. Okay, then the more popular publishers like Springer, Elsevier, and Wiley, they also have maintained their own lists of journals. Okay, so from there you can actually search for journals that are working on certain topics. So this is a summary of that. I think so for example, you can go to Google Scholars. Okay, you key any keywords. Normally they'll give you a long list of information. Okay, I think this is a problem nowadays about doing research review. Okay, wherever you key in certain keywords in your topics, you find out, they are giving you back thousands and thousands of information, right? So your difficulty becomes, which one should I read? Because there are so many of them. Okay, in the past, it's quite difficult to find them because we don't have this online database. But now with the online database, we had another problem. That is, there are too many information. Okay, that's why the keyword you choose relevant to your topic is very important. Okay. So this one is for like Google Scholar. If I say, for example, I choose for my area, I choose the indium antimony transistor. Okay, and then you give me back what 10,000 results. Okay, so I think it's possible for us to read what 10,000 references, right, in order to start our research work. So that's why we not always come to your skills, okay, about how to stream down or filter which journal or which references you should actually refer to. Okay, so the rule of thumb is, of course, the keyword that is the most relevant to your topic of interest. Okay, then you look at the years. Okay, the latest year. Normally we choose the latest years. Let's say now you are 2023, right? So you should choose the paper for the past 3 years, for example. Okay, I will choose the one from 2020, 2022, 21, 2022. It's my starting reading point. Okay. And then from that papers I read, if I find out they are relevant, and then if they in the paper they also quote certain more important or more pioneering papers, then I'll trace it back to the older papers, so that you expand our reading. Okay, rather than, but at least I have a starting point. Okay, and I'm reading the most relevant one rather than I simply choose any. Okay. So this example of IEEE Explore. Okay, so they have also millions of articles there. So it's not easy to read through all the journals papers. So you have to be selective. Okay, so to choose the right one. So this one is for the publisher, Sevilla. This from the Biomed Central. They also have a lot of database in there. So these are examples. Okay. So if you are doing a research or a project, you find that actually nowadays online database is very useful. Okay, they are available anytime, anywhere. So you will not be lacking of references for you to read. Okay. Okay, I think these are all the basic information I want to share before you really start to write about the journals. Okay. Then this coming section will be the real thing, which is we look at the functions and the content highlights, okay, according to the structure of the writing. Okay. So normally what I will cover in the following slides, okay, although when I prepare it is specifically applied to journal articles, but actually whatever I said or I share here can also be equally applied to conference paper or any technical reports, or when you're writing your thesis, okay, or even writing for your assignment. Okay, they should follow a similar structure. Okay, so what are the structure I'm referring to? Okay, a typical structure is that you must have a title page. Okay, so title page means you must have a title. Okay, you might have a title of your articles. You might have an author list, who is the writer. And your affiliations, where you come from. Okay, if you're now a student, of course, you say you put down your program and your departments, your universities, and then also a list of keywords. Okay, well, they are keywords, and later on we'll explain the function why you need keywords. Then, of course, you have to write an abstract. Okay, you need an abstract. Okay, or in a more simple layman term, it's a summary. Okay, then you have to write introductions about the work you're doing. Then the experiment methods or methodologies, or even the material you are using to complete your work. And then the results, okay, these are the critical parts. You must have a result, okay? If you have no result, okay, nothing to write about actually. So when you want to write a result, you have to think about how to present a result, okay? So we say that that is a data presentation. And then once we have result, of course, you have to discuss about it. You have to do analysis about it. Okay? You cannot just present your result and that's all. In writing a journal article or even your thesis, we expect that after you present a result, you must discuss it, you must analyze it. And then, of course, after your discussion and your analysis, you must make a conclusion. Okay, a paper is not complete without a conclusion. Okay, and then, of course, acknowledgement can be included, but it's sometimes optional depending on whether it applies to you or not. Okay. And then a reference citation. This is very important. Nowadays, reference citation is an essential part of your writing. So we'll talk about it more later on. So any typical technical articles or scientific articles that you are writing for different purposes, okay, they must have this basic structure. Okay. So when you start writing, before you start writing, you must think of, oh, do I have information or data or content to cover all these different sections? So you have to think about it. And in fact, you'll find that the same structure also applies to writing a proposal for your project, a proposal for your final year project, a proposal for your postgraduate project, even a proposal for finding funding to support your project. Okay, they always follow a similar structure also. Okay, so this one is quite universal. Even you can apply it to writing your assignment reports. Okay, so let's go into the any question so far? If any question, you can stop me and raise it. Okay. So first thing, okay, title page. Okay, when you write about whether it's thesis or a journal or a report, there must always be a title. Okay. So in the title page, we're talking about is it contains the title, the author name and affiliation, address or their contact, and then the abstract itself, and then the keywords or in index terms. In US, they use the words index term rather than keywords. Okay. So the title page. Okay. What does it mean by a title page? The title. So a title actually is one line of sentences. Okay. That actually orient the readers to the content of the documents. Okay. Before they start to read it, they need to know what is it about, right? So the title will tell that. So because of that, the title must be very specific, concise. Okay, concise means it must be compact, short, but with meaning. Okay, and informative. Okay, with keywords. Basically, your title will be formed of a combination of a few keywords. Okay. So the keywords will relate to the focus and main conclusion of studies. Okay, in order to capture the reader's attention for reading. So the keywords is very important to attract the attention from the potential readers. Okay? If your words can catch their interest, not only they'll want to find time to read about it. Okay, not only your work have the chance to be exposed to a wider range of readers. Okay, and that can be the result can be understand, it can be made use of by other people. Okay? So one of the do's that we strongly recommend to all the authors is that you need a very strong title, okay, where you focus your reader to your area of work, and then separate your work from others, because there may be a lot of people doing something similar to what you are doing. They may be also trying to publish about it. Okay? So what make you, for example, just now I show you an example of searching for certain articles under certain keywords. Give me in a Google Scholar, give me 10,000 articles. So what makes me want to read your article among the 10,000 articles available? Okay, so your title will play an important roles in doing that. Okay, and one of the common don'ts we advise is that you don't use abbreviations, formulas in the title, because you actually make it less attractive. Okay, and also less informative. So I'll give you an example. For example, this is what I share with my student. For example, okay, I'm writing about something about avalanche in electronics discharge in a certain gas. So when I want to write about it, I say, okay, studies on the growth of avalanche. Okay, sound very short, right? Very short and simple. But actually, if you analyze the title, it actually tell us nothing much about what I'm doing. So my comment is that it's too general, not specific, less informative. Although it look at very short and sweet, but actually it doesn't mean anything to the readers. So if I change the name to make it more specific, okay, for example, studying the possible effect of low and high temperature on the growth of charge carrier avalanches in electrical gas discharge. Then okay, it sounds like too, it's quite specific, okay, but it's not concise, it's a bit too long. Okay? Then if you analyze it, you find that a lot of redundant words. Okay? For example, studying the possible effects. So it's telling you nothing, right? So you don't need these words. Then you say low and high temperature. So basically, also telling you nothing much. It's telling you actually you're covering the full range of temperature only. So you don't need to include both low and high at all. Right? It's just redundant. Then charge carrier. That's why I mentioned that I'm investigating about electron effects, right? So if we say charge carrier actually is general terms, refer to more than just electron. So it's not specific enough. Okay. So if I revise it further, okay, I get rid of all these redundant words. Okay. Meanings I use effect of temperature on the growth of electron avalanche in electrical gas discharge. Okay. So this one is compared to the other two versions, more concise, not specific, and informative. Okay. And then from the title itself, we can identify all the keywords that is related to our total point of studies and with the outcome that we want to share. For example, the one highlighted in red color is the keywords like temperature, the growth, electron avalanche, and electrical gas discharge. Okay. That's what I mean. I mean is that when you say you form a title with keywords, okay. So the title is made up of a number of keywords, right? Focus on the results or the effects or the outcome of your studies. Okay. So this is what I mean by the keyword related to the focus and main conclusion of the studies. That means your title must be very specific one. Right? And by reading your title, I know, oh, this is what you want to share with me. Okay. And whether it's a positive result, whether it's a negative result, whether it's something very important, the title itself will tell us. Okay. So that will actually generate interest for the reader to say, oh, maybe I should read more about this one. Okay. So this purpose of the title. So title is actually very important. Actually, it's like your name, it's like your slogan. Huh? You want people to be attracted to it, you must have a nice title and slogan. Okay. Next is the author names and the affiliation. Of course, you have to give the full name of the authors. Okay. And because we come from different ethnic races, different countries. So, and the way we spell position our surname is different. So, and to ensure that they know which one is our surname, normally we underline the surnames. Okay. At the same time, you also should give the author's affiliation addresses, okay, where the actual work was done. Okay, if you actually work in Utah, by the time you publish your paper, of course your affiliation is Utah. But if you work in another company, the work that you have done in the company, then you should use the company as your affiliation, okay? Not Utah. Okay. So normally we will indicate all affiliations with a specific lowercase superscript letter, okay, immediately after the author's name, okay. So this is what I'll show you later. And at the same time, once we when we mention about the affiliation, we'll give them the full postal address. Okay. Like give you an example. Examples, this is a list of authors that is publishing in this particular journal. Okay. So examples, normally we have, for this journal, they actually only need us to spell out our initial and also our surname. Okay, so that's why this is our initial with our surname. Okay, and then for everyone, after the surname, you have a superscript to indicate where you come from. Okay, so for example, these different authors, they come from different places. Okay, from A is from Foundation University, Malay University. B is from where? It's from this from Singapore. And C is from NTU. D is from UPF. So if you have 10 authors, they have to list out all the 10 authors. And if they come from 10 different places, then you have to list out the 10 different affiliation they are from. Okay? So it must give them the full postal address. That means it must be the departments, the university, and the postal address. Okay? So you must give the full name and the full address. Next, among the authors, because you have 10, let's say you have 10 authors, then you must appoint among the 10 authors as one as a corresponding authors. So that these are the guy who will actually handle the correspondence with the journal editorial office. Okay, and he's the one who will submit the journal paper online to the journal. Okay? So that means he's the bridge between the authors and the journals. Okay? So of course, if you are the only authors, then you have to be the only corresponding author. Okay. So, and if you are the corresponding author, you not only you have to provide your full postal address or affiliation, you must also provide your full contact information so that they can contact you for communication. For examples, in the previous examples, okay, this is the latest author, and then among them, I'm actually the corresponding author, so I have to provide them with my full corresponding information. Right? Nowadays, it's the email is a must. Then, of course, your telephone numbers. If you have a website, a personal website, you can also put there. Okay. So the key point is that they are able to get you if they want to communicate with you. Next is to write the abstract. Okay, abstract actually is a summary, okay, of your whole journal article you are writing about. Okay, so it's very important because it informs the readers what happens in the documents, and it is worth reading the main text. Because in the abstract, you give them the key information that you have actually covered in the paper. So it's a very concise and factual single paragraph. Okay. So for if you are submitted to the short journal paper like the letter-based journal, your abstract may be only up to 100 words only. Okay, don't write more than that. Okay, sometimes they will reject your journal because your abstract is too long. Because they know that you never follow up the instruction. Okay, so they are not happy, so they will reject you. But if you are writing for the full journal papers to the full journals, of course, they accept a longer abstract, okay, depending on the journals. Okay, some get up to 200 words, some up to 300 words. Okay, for IEEE, normally they accept up to 200 words only. And then you must know what to include in an abstract. Okay, so to know what to include in an abstract, you must know what is the function or why they want to do an abstract. Okay, so the abstract should actually state briefly the purpose or the objective or the scope of research that you are doing. Okay, so basically your aims, your purpose, your objective on doing the research, you must spell them out in your abstract and in one sentence. Okay, I think the difficult part is how do you do that in one sentence or 2 sentences? Shouldn't be more than 2. Okay, otherwise you exceed the word length. Okay. Then you also should include a very summary point about the approach you are using to conduct your work. Again, the challenge is how to do it in 1 sentence or 2 sentences. And then to share with them in the abstract the key or principal results that you have obtained in your work. Something that the key result you want to share to the world. Again, you have to mention it in 1 or 2 sentences. And finally, in 1 short sentences, how to make a conclusion, okay, based on the result that you have and your objective that you have spelled out. Okay. So when you write an abstract, these are the key points you have to think about. Okay. I have to tell them my scope or my aim in 1 or 2 sentences. I have to share with them what are the approach I use to do the work. And I have to share with them what is the key result in 1 or 2 sentences. Okay? And then make my conclusion in 1 sentence. Okay? In order to meet the word limits required. Okay? So you cannot say it along write a very lengthy abstract because you don't want that. So maybe I share with you an example. This is one we submit to a letter. That's why the abstract must be less than 100 words. Okay, so meaning you only have about 5 or 6 lines. Okay, so the challenge is how to write key information within a short paragraph. So this work is a bit, I think, the work done by my students working on the creating a nickel iron thin film. Okay, using the alphasonic methods. Okay. So in 1 sentence, it is try to tell the operator what is the purpose of the work. Okay. And then the general approach, in 1 sentence, what are the, after you have deposited the firm, what are you doing with it? Okay, so it is 1 or several sentences. So you have to tell them what the methods you use, what the analysis you're doing. Okay. And then share the principal results. Okay, again, in 1 or 2 sentences, give the key numbers. Okay, normally when you talk about result, it's the numbers you're referring to. Okay, and then make your final conclusion. Okay, so the result of the piece of work show that these particular methods have improved something, right? Improve the surface roughness. Okay, so this is conclusion you make based on the result and the analysis they have done. So everything in 1 sentence. Sometimes 2 key points combined in 1 sentence in order to limit the words. So the challenge of writing a thesis is how to make it short. This is the thing. Okay. And not only make it short, all the information you share in here must be done inside your main text of the journal writing. Okay. So that means they must be consistent. For example, if you say you presented a data in a result in a main writing, then that result must be the same as it presented here. Shouldn't be something different. Sometimes when we read, because you go through many round of revision, end up you revise the main text, but you didn't revise your abstract at the end of the day. So they may be inconsistent. Okay, so when you submit to a journal, they read about it, the review read about it, say, hey, how come your result have 2 different set of value? And based on that reason, they can actually reject your submission because they know like you didn't do a proper filtering, proper vetting of your content. Okay. So if you are not careful, of course, how can we trust that your data is valid? Okay. So you will give them a very bad impression. So consistency in writing is very important. So again, the next slide to share with you what are the summary of what is do and don'ts. Okay, so again, when you write an abstract, it must be in past tense. Okay, and you always use complete sentences, not because it's an abstract, it must be short. So you write it in a point form. No, it cannot be in point form. It must be in a normal complete sentence of language flow. Okay. That's why you must be careful in selecting the right words to use to convey the message. So it should focus on summarizing your results. Okay, you don't explain anything in your abstract. You're just telling the facts. Most of the time when we review the writing of a lot of students, they always try to explain things in the abstract. Actually, in abstract, you don't explain anything. You just state the facts only. Okay? That's why you can write short sentences. Because when you start to explain things, your sentence becomes very long, and you need many sentences to do it. Okay. So you can do a self-check. If you tend to write long, that means he has time to explain. And you shouldn't do that. Okay. So what were reported in abstract, okay, for the purpose, method, major, result, and conclusion must be consistent with your respective section in your main text. Okay, for example, the purpose and purpose in your introduction, the method in your experiment method section, the result in your result and discussion section, and the conclusion in your conclusion section. They must match. And the don'ts is that the abstract is separate from the article, so it must be able to stand alone and not refer to any part of the papers, such as the table and figure. So you don't refer anything from references. You don't refer anything from your main content. Okay? It's a standalone story, right? So you don't make references. Okay? And try not to make abbreviations. Okay, I mean the short forms of certain words. Okay, and also try not to cover or include any mathematical equation in the abstract. Okay. Sometimes you feel that, oh, I need to explain it through some mathematical equation. So that you shouldn't do that, because if you do that, it means you're trying to explain something. Right? So you don't do that. Okay, because you don't need to explain anything in the abstract. Abstract is for you to tell the facts only. Next is to identify your keywords. Again, I say if you write your title carefully, then you can choose your keywords from your title. Okay. So normally every journal will ask you to provide up to 5 keywords. Okay. So when we provide keywords, try to avoid use of general or plural terms or multiple concepts. Okay. For example, the and of. Okay. The keyword shouldn't contain the word of and of things like that. And the purpose of having this keyword is for indexing purposes. That means for the search engine to search for your articles. Let's say, for example, I'll show you an example. Like in this case, this paper, okay, the keywords they submit to the journals are these keywords. And this keyword actually are all inside the title. Okay. So if you propose all these are the keywords, then the journal will make sure these words are the keywords available in the search engine. So when people say key in silicon wafers, then this paper will appear among the list of references. Okay. So if you want, you must choose your keyword properly and also title it properly, so that when people look for a similar piece of work in a certain area, your paper will appear in the data search engine database. Okay. So this is the purpose of having a good keywords and title also. Okay. Next, we go for the main section of the writing. The first section is the introduction. Okay. So introduction actually is quite important. Okay, a lot of time, a lot of students, they just simply do it because they thought it's not important, but actually it's important because they orientate the readers. Okay, they defend your work. They make the readers understand and appreciate why you want to do this. You know, what is the purpose of doing this? Why are you doing these experimental methods? Why are they studying these topics? So important for them to understand so that they have the interest to read further. Okay. So in any writing for introduction, you must have at least 3 sections. Okay, this section must have at least 1 paragraph of that. Of course, you can have more than 1 paragraph if you are writing for a longer paper. Okay, but key point is you must cover 3 major points. Okay, which is a problem statement, the benchmarking, and your contribution in this piece of work. Okay, so let's look at the first point, the problem statements. Okay. So in your first section of your introduction, in your first paragraph or the second paragraph, you should actually explain the background of why you are doing this piece of work. Okay, it means you have to provide justification and motivation why you are doing this. Okay, because every piece of research work, they must have some importance, they must have some mission, or must have problem they want to solve. Otherwise, there's no point doing this research, okay? Or no point doing this particular project work. But you must have a purpose, right? You must have been trying to solve some problems, trying to improve certain things. Okay, so this paragraph is something for you to start to talk about the background of these particular topics and what is the problem in this area, why what are the remaining things to be solved, okay? And also you try to relate why is you are interested in it, why is it important to Malaysia, why is it important to the world, you know. So you're giving the readers a problem statement, okay? After you have done that, then of course you follow up with a second paragraph or a certain section, which actually provide a concise and informative literature review of the past relevant works related to this topic you are doing. Okay, that's where your literature review is important, because when you're doing certain piece of work, you may have collected, say, 50 reference paper. That's the most relevant to your work, right? So you read about these 50 papers, then you know, oh, basically what happened inside this area. Okay, in these particular topics, you know, oh, maybe certain people have done certain things using certain methods and achieving certain result. Okay, so you can compile all these different work by different authors, by different research group, with different result, with different methodology. You can compile them into a summary table and compare them, and then make a conclusion. Oh, okay, after they have done this, but actually there are still certain things not covered, or still the area can be improved. Okay. So in summary, that means you are doing a benchmarking. You are studying where you stand, so that where your work comes in. Is your result you obtain is the best among them, or the worst among them, or in the middle among them, or is your methods totally different from them? I mean, it's a new methods. Then it's worth publishing, because they are sharing the world that, hey, we can do the same thing with different methods, and this method is better, faster, cheaper. So this is something where you have to do in your introduction. You're doing a benchmarking. So it's to provide validity of your work. So it's important that you also cover this piece of section. And then the third one is in the third section or the third paragraph, you describe your focus and your objective, your scope or your coverage of work in this piece of paper. Okay. And at the same time, share with the readers the significant result you have obtained. Okay, so this is a section where you tell the authors what method you use, okay, how you do it, and what are the results you have achieved. So basically, in summary, it's about your contribution you have done, what you have achieved. Okay. So in summary, in your introduction of any write-ups, you must have achieved these three things. Provide a common statement, do the benchmarking, and share with the rest of the readers what is the contribution. Okay, it's the same thing applying for your thesis. And then when you're writing this section, of course, there are some do and don'ts that we hope we can share with you, so that you have a good practice rather than some bad practice, okay, so to speak. Okay? So when you're writing introduction, normally you should use past tense, okay, except you are describing established fact, which is always true. Then you can use present tense. And you don't do lengthy introduction, okay? Just like I mentioned, 3 paragraphs, okay? Normally 3 paragraphs should be enough. But if you think you have a lot of information to share and they are very useful, then you can extend it to, say, 6 paragraphs, okay? So normally you should limit your introduction to 1 to 3 pages, okay? 1 page for letter-based journal, 3 pages for full-length journals. And you don't have to squeeze all your cited reference in one section. You can spread them out, okay, where they need it, okay? And then don't just include past and old references, okay? In fact, you must include the latest references. Latest means among the latest 5 years, okay? Because if your references you are citing is, let's say, 30 years ago only, then mean you're doing something which is very old and nobody are interested. Okay? That's why any piece of work, any piece of good work, you must have references that cover from different years, from the recent years, from the middle range of year, and even from some very old early years. So that to show that actually this particular topic is always relevant. And then when you are writing your journal paper, you don't have to spend some time to write about, oh, in your introduction, what is the next section, what is the next section? It's no need. But this paper is quite short. People can straight away go to read that section rather than you introduce what is inside that section in your introduction. There's no need to do that. Because you are wasting the space only. As I tell you, when you submit the journal, space is money. Because if you exceed the page limit, they'll charge you. So you want to make sure your writing is within certain page limit. Okay, so you don't include anything that is not necessary. So after you are happy with your introduction, okay, they must be informative but not too long. Okay, at the same time not too short, because too short sometimes it means you don't have enough information to share. Then next you will start to write about your experimental methods. Okay, because when you do your project work, there must be some methods or some tools, some equipments you are using, right? Cannot be doing something without using anything. Okay, there must be something you're using. If it's a physical work, then you must have some equipment, some hardware. If you're doing software-based work, you may have some software tools or application. Or if you say, okay, I don't do physical, I don't do hardware, I just do some philosophy-based, then of course you still have some methods, a certain technique you apply, right? Certain procedures you apply to analyze your data, analyze your thinking, things like that. Those they must be some methods. So it's important that you share with the readers what method you're using to conduct certain works. Okay. And if you're doing a physical work, then of course you may be using some materials. Okay, so then you have to spell out the material you're using, the chemicals you are using, the biological material you're using, like the type of bacteria you're dealing with, the type of culture you're using, or things like that. So you have to share with them what is these things, where do you get it from, you buy it from where, who supply you, okay? And then the condition you're doing an experiment. For example, you're doing some chemical process, then you must have some maybe your humidity, your pH is important, right? So then you have to spell out the pH you're using and the concentration you're using, how many grams of the certain matter you're using, certain bacteria you're using. These are the information you have to share. Okay, because the purpose of writing this experimental method section is that you share with the readers how you do it, what method you use, what equipment you use. Okay, for example, I'm doing an X-ray scan of my samples. So you have to share with the reader, hey, what X-ray machine you're using. You buy the X-ray machine from which manufacturer and what model you're using. So that people, if they want to repeat your work, they can go and buy from the same manufacturer, the same model of tools, and then conduct the same type of works and get the same result. So this is the purpose of experimental. And sometimes the wrong impression students are writing about is that they thought, hey, maybe I shouldn't say too many or too much information, because this is supposed to be trade secret, are supposed to be confidential. But again, I remind you, author, when you are considering writing something to be published, basically you are willing to give up the secret or your trade recipe. You are willing to share and help other people to understand how you do it, and then so that they can go back home and or in their lab, or they can repeat your experiment and get the same result. So if you think I don't want people to do as good as me or things like that, then you shouldn't publish. Okay. But once you decided when you publish, then you have to share enough information so that other people can repeat what you do. Okay. That's why you have to share all this basic information. Okay. So for example, if you're using a specific type of equipment, a specific type of enzyme or culture, then you have to tell them the name, the model code, the manufacturer, the supplier, and then the performance specification. For example, if you're using certain culture, it may require certain special nature of the culture, right? If you are using certain enzyme, okay, it may be certain type, certain condition, So all this stuff is spelled out, okay? So that the reader who want to repeat your work, they can buy exactly the same thing. So you should report the methodology completely, I mentioned just now, including the specification, such as the temperature, pH, humidity, the incubation time, etc. Okay, or a procedure or a technique that you're using. Okay, sometimes you follow a certain procedure or a technique which is very well-known. Okay, then you can actually cite the technique itself. For example, if I use a Taguchi method, which is one of the methods for design experiments, okay, then I don't have to explain what is Taguchi method. I just quote a reference, which is the originator of or inventor of the Taguchi methods. I just quote that guy would do. But if this particular procedure or technique is original, it's novel, you are the one who invented it. Then of course you don't have to quote any references because you are the one who invented this technique. But if you are the inventor, then of course you have to include more information about how you do it. What make it as useful techniques. Okay, so the detail had to be in there in your publication. Okay. But if we are just using other people's technique or procedure, then you just have to quote that guy. You don't have to write or say a lot of information about it. Okay, because it's not your original work, so you don't have to spend time describing it. Okay, for publication we don't have to do that. Okay, because you can just simply quote them. And when you write about your experimental, the approach to write is that you have to be general. Okay? You should generalize the way you write it, not very specific. For example, reports a sample that was diluted to a final concentration of 6 milligrams per milliliter protein. Okay, so this is a very general expression, right? You just want 6 milligrams per milliliter protein. You don't say you must use how many microliter of sample diluted or how many microliter of buffer to get this 6 milligrams per milliliter. So you don't have to do that. This is a bit too much of specification. Okay, you just have to have a general specification. Then for your experiment setups, okay, sometimes normally you show a diagram, okay, but sometimes you can share a photograph. Okay, for example, this is a diagram for actually a microscope. Okay, it's a high power microscopes that's linked to a camera and then to the monitor. And this author, they show this because this is a original or novel design by the author. Okay, they are the one who set up this design where you cannot buy it from anywhere because they are the inventor of this specific system. So for people to understand how it works, that's why they have a schematic diagram to tell them what are the parts that you have and how it works, and what are the specifications. Okay, so these are the detail we author have to share with the readers if you want to talk about experimental methods. Okay. Then again, you also can include flow charts. Okay, to illustrate the procedures and processes. Okay, for example, this is one example. The author tried to share with readers how they actually do a die attached to a package. Okay, so they show a flow charts of the respective process. Okay, so a visual representation of your experimental methods will be more useful because people can visualize it rather than just a plain text. Okay, so in nowadays in the journal writing, we encouraged more visual representation. So we can also include the expected measurement results or performance targeted, although it's optional. Okay. And certain common thing you don't do is that when you present your data, your experimental diagram, things like that, make sure the text in the figure used is not too big. Okay, must be comparable to the text in your manuscripts. And wherever you present, it must explain in details. Okay, in your tables within the text. Okay. And normally you don't try to write too much in the sense that you are giving a step-to-step description of everything you do. Okay. or like telling a story. You just include the key steps on it. You don't have to tell them A to Z or everything. But the key step where without that, it won't work. You must give the key step where it works. And don't include information that is irrelevant to the readers. That is not important. For example, like who purchased the chemical, who buy the machine for you, who get the money for you, how long it takes to do the measurement. These are information that is not relevant. Actually, people are not interested in. So you don't have to speak, waste your space to write about it. So after you have shared with the readers how you do it, then it's time. After the next section is to share after the experimental, after the procedures, what are the results you can obtain. So then you have to write result and discussion session. Normally, the result and discussion session are together. Okay. So we first look at the result one. So the result section have its purpose. Okay, you must bear in mind. In the result section, you have to present your data. Okay, and therefore the findings using an effective form of presentation. Okay, and normally I said just now, it must be visual. Okay, so you present your data in the form of tables or in the form of figures. Okay, here figures can refer to graph, charts, or diagrams, or even photos. Okay. So once you present your data, okay, you have to analyze your data. Okay. Don't just show that, okay, this is the result I get from this experiment, and full stop. You have to tell them, okay, from this result, what does it mean? Okay, what can you get out of this result? So you have to analyze the result. You have to analyze the data, and then share with your student, as well as share with the readers. What does it mean? Okay. So normally, after you present the result, you analyze the result, you discuss the result. That's why the result and discussion section normally are combined together. Okay. So in essence, you have to present the result. Okay. Describe the result. Okay. And then analyze the result. Then discuss and interpret the result. So maybe I share examples. Okay. I share with you. I want to present this curve. This is a graph of a EDX graph of a certain material. They're telling me what are the elements contained inside the material. So this different peaks is telling me what element in there. Okay. So by having this figure or this chart, I'm presenting my result. Okay. So when I show this graph, I have to also in my text, I have to tell the readers what are this graph about. Okay. What is this graph? This is an EDS charts of certain elements. And then I have to tell them, what are the peaks here? Okay, this peak are the peak for nickel, iron, copper. So when I do that, I'm actually presenting and describing my result. Okay. And then after you have present and describe result, you have to analyze the result. Meaning from this graph, okay, what does it tell? Okay, what does the high peak tell? What does the low peak tell? So you have to analyze it and inform the reader. Oh, okay, from this result, we know what happened, what's this, what's that, So that is analyzing the result. Okay. So when you have analyzed the result, you have to discuss the result or interpret the result. So what does the numbers mean? What does it really mean? Is it good, not good? So you have to discuss and interpret the result. So when you in the result and discussion section, there must be always 3 sections: presenting the result, analyzing the result, and then discussing or interpreting the result. So when you present your results, must be clear why you do a certain experiment. So that's why the link between your result section and your experiment section is very direct. Right? Whatever you do in the experiment methods, it should give you a result, right? So that you can share. Then you have to describe that in text form, okay? And whatever you can see from your graph or your tables, okay, you have to highlight them, you have to describe them in text. But of course, you can describe more than that, okay? And your results should be presented in a sequence following what you have written in your experimental methods. let's say in an experimental, maybe you have 3 experiments, so you have to present your result one by one according to the experiment you conducted sequentially. So that is following the proper sequence without confusion. And again, when you present describing your data and results, you can use past tense, okay? Or use present tense for accepted facts and principles. I mean, something is always true. For examples, I give you, this is about the language itself. Remember, when you're submitted to a journal where the English language is a medium, then you must make sure your English language is good enough. Okay? Otherwise, they may reject it based on your English is too poor, so they cannot understand what you're writing. They just reject it. Okay? So, for example, this example, 1998 survey found that anemia in African cow was correlated with daily diets. Okay? So anemia is a condition in which there is insufficient hemoglobin in the blood. Okay, so you can see that the action word here is past tense, found, because it's back in 1998. Now it's 2023, so it's already past. Right? So it's past tense also for this action word because it's happening in the past years. But then when we talk about anemia, which is a condition, because it's always there, right? It's always true, in which there is insufficient hemoglobin in the blood. So that's why we use present tense. That's why you can see one sentence can be past tense, and the next sentence can be present tense, because it's referring within the context of the meaning. Okay? So if they are all referring to the past things, then of course it's past tense. But when you're referring to items where it's still always true, then it's present tense. Okay? So it must be clear about that. So this is about our language. Okay, so you must be mindful of the language you're using, especially the tenses. Then normally when we present result, we also don't present the raw data or the intermediate working. Okay, you only show them the analyzed or processed with data. Okay, that carry meanings. Okay, but of course, sometimes the data may be a bit complicated, and in order to support the validity and the evidence of your data, you can actually submit the raw data as supplemental documents to support your summation. Okay, but it may not be included in your main text, okay, because it take up a lot of data space, okay, which is limited. Again, don't repeat to present the same data more than twice, okay, or more than once, okay. Don't repeat it. Now you present it at the first paragraph, and then in the third paragraph, you talk about the same thing again. So no repeats. One data can present in one time or two. Okay. And figures are different from tables. Figures are referring to the charts, graph, diagram, and pictures. And table is just a collection of numbers. Okay. So tables and figures are different, mixed up. And text comment on the tables or figures should provide additional complements and not just repeat of your same information. Okay, when you presenting a result in figure 1, apart from describing what is in there, you should also tell us what can you get out of it, and what is the interpretation of the result. Okay. So next, this discussion. Okay, this is where the interpretation comes in. When you talk about your results, okay, again, you don't, and most of the time we find out a lot of the writers, they only present the result. And some they analyze it, but most of them they don't analyze it, they just present it. Then, but the good authors, they will actually analyze it, and then at the same time they could give a complete interpretation or explanation of the result. Okay, that means why you see what you see, why you get the numbers, why this number is high, why this number is low. So you have to explain it. Why you get this percentage is 5%, not 10%. So these are the when we say discussion and interpretation, this is what we mean. You have to explain why you get 5%, or why your result is successful, why it's not successful. And then when you say, or when you do the explanation, you have to provide supporting information. This supporting information can be from the theory that you learn from the text, from the course, or can be from a reference paper. That if you refer to that, then you have to quote them, you have to cite them in this paper. Okay. Because this is not your original idea. It's an idea from someone where you actually use it to support your explanation. Okay, but of course, if we are interpreting or if you are providing an explanation which is totally new, first time this concept is being presented here, where nobody had talked about it before, then of course there's no reference to be given. But then again, if you are proposing a new hypothesis, then you must actually based on very strong scientific principles. Okay. So again, when you're using a scientific principle, then you have to cite the scientific principle. So this section of paper is an objective-oriented and result-oriented writing. So that means whatever you write or whenever you try to explain your results, it's a professional matters. It's not based on your personal opinion. You can say, oh, I think this is right. I think this is the way it should work. But then you don't have the supporting information, supporting theory, or supporting the rule and laws to support what you explain. You can say that I believe this is right. This is what happened. Because we don't accept personal opinion. Okay, whatever you explain must be based on scientific principles, and it can come from yourself or come from other reference paper, which you can cite. Okay. So when you write the discussion, you must have enough depth. Okay. And if it's different from the standard expectation, of course, then you have to explain why, based on the scientific principle, which you can quote. Okay. Or if your result agree with something people have already reported before, or in support of your results, then you can cite them and include them briefly in your result. Okay, you don't talk about the other people's result. You talk about your own result, but you can cite other people's to support your case. Okay, by citing the reference you do. And you have to decide whether your hypothesis is your proposal. I mean, your explanation is supported, rejected, or cannot make a decision. Okay, that means you cannot make a conclusion. So this is a discussion where you have to decide. Okay? And research paper normally will not be accepted if your work is grossly incomplete, meaning you are not able to make a conclusion. So if you're not able to make a conclusion, then this paper should actually submit as a conference paper. But if you can make a conclusion, then you can actually submit it as a journal paper. Okay. And if you're writing for a final year project thesis, then of course you must have a conclusion. Right? If you have no conclusion, that means your project is not completed. So then of course you actually make a very bad impression to your supervisor and examiners. And then in your discussion session also, if you think there are certain things you can do further, then you can actually include some future suggestion, okay, for future works. And for journal guidelines, they may be different from one journal to another. Okay, so it's important to read about the guidelines. And certain journals, they will actually remind you to restrict your discussion section to be less than certain page size. Okay, normally we don't expect the discussion section to be more than 4 pages of double space Microsoft Word writing. Because again, page limits is a concern. Okay, and at the same time, try to avoid extensive citation and discussion of published literature or other works. That means you don't spend time copy and discuss about result of other people's. There's no point. If you think you need to use the result to support your data that you present, then you just cite them. Okay, you don't have to discuss about it. Okay, and do not write a superficial interpretation which misstates the result. Okay. But it's important to suggest how and why the result you observe, okay, is like what you see, and propose the possible mechanism of the reason behind. Okay, so that means that you have to propose a hypothesis and explain. This is especially expected when you're writing a full journal paper to those full journal IEEE transaction. They expect you to actually propose a good explanation of what you presented in the result. And do not simply state that the data you have presented agree with expectation. basically, it's like telling nothing. Okay? Then when you come to presentation of result in the figures and tables, there are some important considerations. For example, it should contain key information only. You don't put in too many data inside your graph, okay, or your tables, because the more you put in, the more you have to explain, the more you have to interpret. So you only put in the key information where you want to highlight in your writing. So only include those figures necessary to showcase the result. Okay, you don't say, oh, I want to include everything. No, you just pick and select the important one, the one that show impact. Okay. And when you have decided to include, say, 4 figures, then you have to label them accordingly. Figure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the order of appearance to follow the numbering. Okay. So and then all your figures, all your tables must follow the consistent formats. That means your figure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they must follow the similar formats when you present them in your manuscript. Okay. You don't have one figure is in one form, another figure in different format, so it look a bit messy. Okay. And then you must put it in the proper orders. Okay. And some journals, they will actually ask you to place all your table and figures at the end of your manuscripts. Okay. But some journals, they may ask you to embed your figure and tables within the text of your writing. Okay. So you have to check with your author guides by the journals. Okay. And if your table and figure are placed within the text of your result and discussion section, then the figure caption and the table caption must go together with them. Okay. So normally this is a requirement by IEEE. Okay. If you go for IEEE journals, they have asked you to embed all your figure and table inside your main text. But for other publishers, they actually want you to put all your table and figures at the end of your manuscript. Okay. Then certain journals, they have spelled out very specific formats for the table and figures. Okay. So all your table and figures must have a complete caption, okay, with a proper language, not in the point form. And then all your graph or all your diagram, they must have proper access of your graph, the lines, the row or column or tables, they all must be labeled properly. They all must have legends if they have many different types of data with different symbols. And when you're presenting your data points in a graph, they must have sufficient points, okay? Minimum 4 to 5 points. Don't present a graph where there's only 2 points. They will actually tell you that your data is not valid or carry very little confidence. So you must make sure you have sufficient points in your graph. Then use of different data symbols or line type if there are multiple set of data in the same graph. Let's say you have 5 lines, 10 lines, then you must make sure every line or data you present, they are actually independent of each other. You can tell them differently, okay, from the same graph. And the lines, data points, the legend text in the graph and tables must be large enough to be observed, to be read by readers, but not too big, not bigger than the main text size, but should be big enough so that when the reader read your diagram, read your tables, read your figures, they can read the numbers. They cannot read it. If they cannot read the numbers they cannot interpret what are you doing, what are you trying to show. So that will be a negative point for your data presentation. So this is about the result and table discussion I want to mention. So normally these are the points you have to consider when you're preparing your manuscript and doing your result. So if you are used to writing, then this will become your habit. Okay. And then the last part of the major section, which is the conclusion. Okay. Conclusion, sometimes we notice that a lot of authors, they just simply write, okay, the top, they just copy and paste the result and put there is a conclusion. Okay. But you must bear in mind the conclusion section actually have a purpose, they have a function. So to make the function efficient, then your conclusion section must be concise and short. Okay, and hopefully in 1 paragraph only. Okay, we have seen that people write maybe 3 or 5 paragraphs.
In a thesis, maybe you can write a few paragraphs for your thesis, because the thesis have a very large coverage of a lot of breadth and depth. But if you are writing for a journal, then normally we expect a conclusion which is only in one paragraph. Okay, normally 2 paragraphs is the most. Okay. So the purpose of this section is that it should actually contain and provide a function of explaining how you solve the problems. Okay, remember when you write your introduction, you have one section where you spell out your problem statement, right? So the problem statement will tell you the objective you want, or the aim or the scope you want to do to solve the problems, right? So in this conclusion, you must conclude that whether you have solved this problem or not. Huh? So in more than that, in conclusion, you must have a statement to tell, hey, I have done this, I have achieved this. Then highlight the significant or the output you have achieved. So when you say you have achieved it, you have solved the problems, or you have achieved your objective. So then you have the next line, you have to tell, hey, how do you do that? What actually have you achieved? So this is where the number comes in to indicate the significance. Okay. And these claims must be substantiated by the data you have presented in your result and discussion section. That's why it must be consistent. That's why in the result, you show that, hey, actually I achieved 10% of success. Then in here, when you conclude the numbers, it must, when you want to show 10%, it must be the same. You shouldn't say, I achieved 20% of success, but then in the result, you say, I achieved 10% only. So it's not correct, it's not consistent. In fact, people will say that you are presenting a false data, okay? And then after you have presented your significance of your output achieved, then you sometimes this is optional. You can also mention the limitation of the work, why you cannot go further, why you cannot achieve a more successful work. You can actually provide a short mention about the limitation that you have faced, or you can suggest a future work or next stage for improvement so that you can have a better result. Okay? So this is the function of the conclusion. Okay? So when you write a conclusion, you must always bear in mind, you must address whether you have already achieved or complete your problems statement. Okay. Secondly, you share with us what is the significance of the output you have achieved. Okay. And lastly, mention about anything why you're not getting what you get, or why you get what you get. Okay, so you can do that also in your conclusion, in the short sentences. Okay, so the conclusion have a meaning. So because when you submit a journal, or for readers who are busy to read, the most important section they read actually is the abstract, okay, and the conclusion. In fact, they may not read the other content, they just read these 2 sections. So after the conclusions, okay, bear in mind, it's not an exact replica of your abstract. So your abstract and conclusion are 2 different sections, okay. Because we have noticed some just copy from abstract and make it as conclusion, or they copy the conclusion to be the abstract, okay. But actually they are not the exact copy of each other, okay. There may be some overlapping, but they have different function. Then another section, which is a minor one, but maybe it's useful and important, if it's relevant, is for the author to have an acknowledgement section, so that you can acknowledge people that will help you during the course of the work or during the course of the writing of the journal. For example, you can acknowledge the support of the funding from the sponsors, okay? Or the companies or any individual who provide the facilities or money to support the projects, or scholarship for your work, or a person who have expertise in this area, but then he may not involved in your work, but then he actually helps in interpreting or analyzing on the result, or helping you to do some measurements, things like that, to give you the data. So you have to acknowledge them. Okay, if they are not part of the authors, then they should be in here. Okay. So for example, in most of the journal paper, or even thesis, you find there's always this acknowledgement section. They thank the sponsor, they thank the person, they thank a company, things like that. So it's a short paragraph to do that. And then the final sections, okay, of today is the reference citation section. Although it's the last section, but it's not the least section. It's very important also because the reference section actually lists down all the literature that you have cited in the journal paper. That means in your write-ups, it may have used some of the concepts, it may use some of the ideas, it may use some of the keywords, or in your introduction, or maybe some of the data or figures that is in support of your result, that you have to cite them in your reference section. Okay. And you have to cite them according to the order the information appeared in your journal. Okay, that's why the number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until the end. Okay, and then the format of the referencing actually depends on the journals. Every journal gives you a guidelines on how to provide the reference list in the specific formats. Okay. So basically, the references cited should be related to the topic of studies. Okay, you shouldn't cite any journal that is not relevant. Okay, because I just want to support my friend who has published a paper. So I just cite him. But actually, his piece of paper and nothing to do with your work. So you cite them. So it's not relevant. People don't actually, you're just citing something irrelevant at all. Okay? So make sure you only cite those that are relevant to your topic of study, and make use of the information to support your work here. Okay. So at least to support your writing up or your discussion, or your introduction. So you must make sure they are relevant to the work only. And normally only original research article is authored by the original investigator as cited. Okay. It means sometimes you read certain references that is related to your work. But this guy, when he explains his concept, he's citing someone else to explain that concept. So you as a reader, as an author, when you read this, if you want to use the same concept to explain, to support your arguments or your explanation, then you should support the original authors, not the one who cite him. Right? You should go back to the original, right? And always I remind my students, okay, or my co-authors, that it's important that we cite properly. That means you must make sure whatever information that we have used or refer to, we include them. Okay, and when we include them, we have to cite them according to the proper formats. Okay, and it's important to cite because nowadays we notice that there's a lot of accusation of plagiarism. Okay, plagiarism is what you copy and paste on of other people's work and claim as your own. Or there's a copyright infringement. People say you're using certain methods, certain techniques that is theirs, and you never ask for their permission to use it. So it's become a problem. Because if you didn't do it properly, if you publish a paper, and these authors or these owners may come and sue you. They may come after you and say, "Hey, why are you copying my work without my permission? Why are you using my methods without my permission?" Then they can sue you and the universities or your companies. And then this may happen nowadays. So I have to be careful when you do citation. So always refer to the sample copy of a journal articles. So if you don't know how to cite, then if you want to submit to a journal, say IEEE transaction on electronics devices, then you download a copy or a sample, see how they cite the paper, then you follow that format. So when you are citing, nowadays, because there are a lot of journals which are online, if you're citing a journal which is online, then you have to follow what is required by the journal. So you have certain format for the online journals. Sometimes you also cite textbooks. Okay, so sometimes although we actually don't encourage citation to textbook, but sometimes we accept it because if that book is written by the very famous or well-known authors, then we can accept it because then we know the information or the knowledge that they have put in the textbooks is valid. Okay, the reason why sometimes we have reservation about textbook because certain authors they write textbooks. This textbook is maybe the content, the principles they use are all not correct. Okay, and we don't know because nobody reviewed it. So when they use it and then you also use it, but actually the equation is wrong, then you are doing some wrong conclusion. Right? So that's why sometimes we don't encourage authors to cite textbooks unless this textbook is well known or the content is already reviewed by someone else. Okay. Again, conference paper shouldn't be used also because conference paper normally are incomplete work, and most of the time a lot of conference paper are not available for other readers. It's in the closed proceeding. Right? So if you cite them, then nobody, the authors or the reviewers or the readers, they have no way to read the same articles as you as an author. Okay? So it's not fair. Okay. So they don't show whether information you share or you quote from the conference paper is true or not true. Okay. So again, citing websites. Okay, some reference you actually get it, or some information you get from websites. Then you just cite a website, the URL or website. Actually, it's not encouraged to do that, okay? Because a lot of well-known journals, they don't accept that. Okay? The reason is because the website is always it's not permanent. Okay, yeah, the website can disappear, and information on there is not verified unless you're citing a journal paper you found from our website. But if you're citing a journal paper you found on our website, you should cite the journal. You don't cite the website, okay? So you must make sure you always cite the original source, not the middleman, okay? So to speak. Okay? So okay, this is what about what I want to share. Okay. Hope it's not too much. So any question from the floors?
Prof.
Oh, I got. Yes.
William asked, can we have slides after the workshop?
I can send a copy to Sao Yi later on.
Okay.
Then he can send to all the participants. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, later I will send through email to all participants.
So no question, huh? But anyway, it's very general information, and basically it's a guideline where you need you to practice it, okay, to develop your writing skills, and that's why I am willing to share the slide because normally when you start to write, only you want to refer back, what actually is some important points to remind you when you write a certain section, right? So it's important that you have that's why sharing your slides is to make your life easier, like if you want to write something. Especially you want to write the result section. These are the information where you should do a self-check first before you start to write. Okay. For me, I think it's okay to share because I also get it from somewhere else. I just compile it and then interpret it in my own version. Okay. I hope it will help you when you write your assignment, when you write your FYP thesis. Okay. And for your information, sometimes when you come to your final year, certain project you do with your supervisors, their project may be quite research orientated, so they may want to ask you to write a research paper also to submit to the journal. So this will actually be useful for those when it happen to you. Okay. Oh, one question. How many
how many citation normally for a short article and long article?
Normally a journal will spell out the limits, okay? But a typical one for a normal journal papers, we expect about 20, at least 20 reference paper. Especially if your area is hot topics. And among the 20 that you cite, we expect at least half of them are the recent papers, meaning within the last 5 years. Okay. But if we are writing a very long paper where you cover a lot, of course, then we expect you have more references. Okay, so some references list up to 40 is possible still. Okay, so the number actually is not critical. Between 20 to 40, I think it's okay, but they must be relevant. Okay, I mean they are related to your work. You don't simply cite for nothing. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, any other questions, you can type in the chat box and I will help you to read out
So I think we still have 10 minutes, so we can ask some questions.
So will it be good if we explain our results with less citation?
Sorry, with what? With just citation.
Less citation.
You can cite you can actually, no, I think when you write present the result and discuss the result, you should have your own version of explanation. But among your explanation, you can embed some supporting arguments from other references, and then you embed that reference within your discussion or explanation section. Okay, you don't just simply everything come from every words, every sentence is just copied from other references and then put it here. Okay, then they will say this is plagiarism because you just copy and paste. So you still have to use your own words. There's one question here. There's a lot of talk about people getting sued or jailed for plagiarism. Any example to scare us with? Normally, when this happens, people will try to unpublicize it, okay? Because it's not a good thing to share. So normally you don't get this kind of publicities. But I can share some story, a short one, okay? But you don't quote me. There are a few real cases I know. One is actually one happened in Korea. There's one case. One professor actually. He actually is in the medical area. He's a very famous professor. He applies a lot, and then somehow there's a whistleblower say that some of the data he presented in the publication is fake data. Okay, so the data is not true, but they claim it to be true. But because it's so well known, people actually don't challenge that. So people actually accept all the publication he submitted. But one of the whistleblowers actually come from his own research group, say that the data are fabricated. So that means the journal actually are publishing data which are fake. Okay. So actually, journal at the end of the day was very angry. So because they already have before this, every author know that they cannot submit fake data, they cannot copy and paste. So actually, the journal actually banned this professor. But of course, they don't announce it to the world, of course, it's reputation fake, because the journal itself also at risk of their reputation, right? They accept paper which is fake. Okay. So another case is actually in Taiwan and US. Okay. But this one is more complicated. Okay, but the story actually not only plagiarism, but also again involve of fake submission. Okay, there's again in Taiwan there's a group of research, and then involve a very famous professor who happened to be a minister of the government of Taiwan at that time. Okay, and his research group there's a researcher. He had a twin brother who worked in US. Okay, and this researcher, this twin brother actually also involved in research, and he actually kind of fabricated some data to submit to the journals, and he also provides some fake reviewer to the journals. Okay, say that hey, these people are real, so you can send my paper for them to review. Okay, but actually these reviewer are all fake because it's all created personality by this guy in US, and he provide all the email, all the credential. I don't know how he create, but he actually provide. So that when the journal submit the paper for review to this different reviewer, actually the guy who receive it is the same guy, which is this guy in the US. So they through this, he always say, "Oh, recommend for publication, recommend for publication." So then, but somehow the news break somehow, I don't know, there's another whistleblower from Taiwan. I don't know what happened, but someone say, hey, actually all these are no real person. That's why this alerted the journal to go back to the research group from Taiwan, because this paper is submitted by this Taiwan group containing the names, including the guy in the US. Okay. And then this Taiwanese group, they say, oh, I'm not aware of this case. No, we have, because this guy submitted a paper on using a name without their knowledge. So they say they are not aware of this. But the journal doesn't believe that. So the journal actually banned the whole groups, okay, including the minister. And that's why this minister actually internally people know, because they also, it's a scandal at that time. So he resigned from the minister post because of this. So whether they do that as a group or as an individual, we don't know, because it's and I think I believe one of the reasons why people can discover is because people are doing at the time they use plagiarism software to check. How come the paper look very similar one? Okay. Because the guy from US, they just copy and paste from different result that they have, just submit as a paper. That's why someone, one of the reader, as a whistleblower, say, hey, how come alert the journal? Hey, come on, I look at this 5 journal. Although the diagram is the same, okay, a lot of the text is the same, but they submit to different journals, because they submit at the same time. So all these journals, they're not aware. This group, they submit this paper at the same time and they get accepted at the same time. But their data are almost 90% the same. Okay. So this is how the whole thing blew up. Okay. So again, the journal banned the whole group because and they didn't sue all these authors because they just for the goodwill, things like that. So these are just something that I know, but I think there are a lot of cases like that. But just they didn't publish, they didn't let people know, because it's a negative impression for everyone, the author, the reader, whoever blew up, and then the journal itself. Okay, so but there are cases like that, people get sued also. Okay, but sometimes people may not want to do that because no point of suing each other, because it's a waste of money and time. Okay, but they want people to be aware that this will happen if you, especially from the industry. Okay, for academic, they may not want to sue each other because, but industry may, because it may imprint on their copyright. Then that may affect their patents or their IPs, and therefore their business. So if we come to the industry, they may decide to sue. So for us, if we are doing something, we make sure if you don't know the origin of the information, then you don't quote them, you don't cite them. Okay. Otherwise, somehow some author jump up and say, "Hey, why you copy my idea?" Then you had to explain. You had to explain to everyone. You had to explain to the guy who say you infringe of his thing. Then you had to explain to the journal why you not citing this guy. Then you are blacklisted. Your reputation is gone. Okay. So they may not sue you, but then your reputation is gone. Okay. So it's important. Don't do plagiarism. And university, we also don't want you to do plagiarism. Okay. So, but sometimes you don't know you are doing it. You see. So that's why you must be aware what is plagiarism. Okay. Basically, if you don't copy anything, and if whatever you do, you use your own writing, you use your own thinking, then you cite anything you read that you use to form your thinking and writing, then you are safe. You don't just copy because it's convenient, just copy and paste people's work. Then you may be in trouble in the future, because once you publish a paper, your paper is in the record forever. Whoever access to read it, they can read it. So it may be with you for many years, even future generations. Okay? So be aware when you do publication, don't fall into this kind of traps. Okay? So it's not worth it, because your reputation will be gone, even if they don't sue you. Okay.
So there is another question from Yui. He asked, is it recommended to use LaTeX when writing a research paper?
LaTeX is the old tools we used the last time before Microsoft Word, things like that. So if you are familiar with LaTeX, you can still use it if the journal accept it. I don't think nowadays not all journals accept LaTeX. Okay, so because it's quite a tedious tool to use. In fact, most journal now they prefer Microsoft Word. Okay. So, but if you want to use LaTeX, and then if the journal accept LaTeX, then you can use it, no problem.